Yo, what's up, Bulldogs? All right, I have here the infamous John Anthony from John Anthony Lifestyle. He's been making some waves in the space here, as he's
Talking a
been
lot of shit.
yeah. So I thought it'd be cool to have John on. We actually ran into each other at a nightclub in Vegas one time. And I mean, I saw him in action. I saw that he's legit. He's got solid game. I've been watching his videos, and even though I'm not really a person that makes kind of the attacking videos, that doesn't matter. What I care about is what can we learn, and and John's definitely got a lot of experience, and a pretty legit. I think I put it in the title here, over 1,300 lay count. If the guy has that much success, you gotta say, well, he's doing something right. So anyway, welcome, John. Glad to have you here, man.
Thanks. Yeah, and for those, like, that number sounds like so out of control to a lot of people. It's all relative, right? Like when I was at like 3 girls in college, there was a girl that I really liked, and I found out she had been with 9 dudes, and that like bothered me for months. It's like, how do you sleep with 9 people? And I remember I found out about a dude that was like 27 girls. I thought he was like the ultimate master. But now 1,000 doesn't seem like that much. So it's all like fucking skewed. But I kept exact track, guys. Like, how do you keep track? I have like a bunch of groups with other advanced friends where I send like an update every single time I get a close, and it's like in my head, I just tracking one of the only objective metrics for your results in the game. So that's why a lot of guys refer to me as like, oh, the lay count guy. I always ask other coaches to kind of measure up how far they've come along in the game. You take into account different factors like their age and how long they were in relationships and this and that, but it's still a pretty good objective metric for skill. Yeah, when you ran into me in Vegas, I don't remember the exact. So what did you see? I don't remember the exact story.
Yeah, I was coaching a client of mine, and we were in the set, and you amogged. I was like, who's this guy just standing right in front of me? I'm like, what? And I'm like, shit. I'm thinking for a second. I'm like, is this like a bigger brother of because you're a tall guy too. I think we're both
Yeah,
around the same 6'3", right? Or maybe you're
I'm
6'4".
6'4". Yeah.
Yeah, so you got an inch on me. And so I'm like, let's see. So I'm thinking this must be like a brother or something, like for a guy to just walk into, because not too many guys come up to me, being 6'3". And then and then we start talking, you're like, oh yeah, you had, I think, a coaching client there too. And I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And I mean, obviously I saw you opening up sets, having success, and practicing good games. So that
Right.
was that was is interesting. But yeah, no, it's funny. So
Cool.
let's see.
So
We had someone that was like, let's imagine if he kept track of all the girls in the spreadsheet, but then he did.
I did.
Right?
It kind of sucks because in college, so like
Yeah.
I started off slow. Like I always show this graph. It's like an exponential graph.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should screen share it. Should I show it real quick to people that aren't familiar?
Yeah. Let's go
All
for
right,
it. This way.
I'll screen share here.
Okay.
Basically, like in college, I used to track like every hookup, like including non-sex, and I had a girlfriend that found it, and I was only at 17 girls when she found it, and I had like all non-sex hookups, but she like freaked out, and then after that, I only tracked closes. So like, I really wish I would have tracked. I basically, like, if I ever like pulled like a 9 and got a blowjob and no close, it didn't even count. It's like it didn't even happen. So I just tracked the amount of closes. But let me pull up this graph real quick. Can you guys see this?
Let me see. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So it took me like 10 years to hit the first 100 girls. That was about 100 girls a year for a while. My best year was 246 closes in a year. This wasn't updated since October 2019. It's currently at 1,319. But the big improvement here, this was kind of the foundation of my system. I was put in this forum called Top Beasts in 2012, around the time that I hit 100 girls. And it was supposed to be the top 30 best pickup artists in the world. And I just kind of like vacuumed up all the information of what everyone was doing and did like a massive comparative analysis and took all the common overlapping key areas, which is a pretty nerdy explanation. But I came from a pretty nerdy background with studying philosophy, computer science, all that stuff. I used to play pro poker, compete in chess tournaments, and I used to work on nuclear missile defense for Lockheed Martin for 5 years out of college. So I'm just very good at optimizing systems. So I brought all that to the table and just treated game like a skill game. And the big improvement I made that year that I did 246 was setting a lot of dates straight to the house and honing in on the texting. But it was just one massive evolution and optimization process. So yeah, I just wanted to show that real quick. But Yeah. It was just, over the years, it was who can I find that's better than me in any area of the game, and then kind of split test. And if it performs better, just optimize or adapt the system accordingly. Whereas someone like Mystery, who I really respect, I feel like he just built a system and then it like froze in time, and he hasn't adapted it or evolved it at all. So, he could have gotten a lot further along. He claims, we used to talk a bunch like 2 years ago. He claims that he was in like the low 300 count. Again, it's not all about racking numbers or whatever. That's still very good, but I think he could have done a lot better had he evolved and optimized the system. So
no, and that's one of the things that that I really appreciate about you, and why I want to really have you on the channel too, is because you are using a system, right? A system is going to produce you better results than any other thing. I was talking with some guys, and they're like, obviously guys talk shit about you because you talk shit about guys, and I'm like, look, I'm like, it doesn't matter what you think about him. Like he's implementing a system that works, and that's how he's getting those results. And so you can be like, oh, I don't like the guy, or you can be like, hey, I can learn something from that. And like guys that are able to execute systems in business, in in game, those are the guys that are going to be most successful overall. It's kind of interesting. A few people are like, like, oh, it's not really something to brag about, he's a sociopath, and I'll kind of like I see where these guys are coming from. But you guys have to understand this, and again, correct me, John, if I'm painting you in the wrong picture, but this is John's life. This is what he does. Like he wants to be the best in the world at this. And it's not like for an average guy, if you're just like an average dude and you're not a dating coach and you're you have a lake count of 1,300, then that's a it's questionable what you're doing with your life. But this is what John does, like, and he wants to be the best. Again, like I said, if I'm paying you the wrong way, let me know. But that's my take on it.
Kind of the best way to explain this is like a lot of the best guys I know, they had like a pretty like traumatic childhood, right? So I went through the whole fucking terrible verbal. My parents are really nice people, but my mother like couldn't handle the stress of having kids, and I was like rebellious and all this shit. So it was like an incredibly verbally abusive childhood that I think created this big drive and ignition component to get external validation from women, if I'm being completely honest. And then I was also given like this genetic ability to hyperanalyze. Like I mastered chess very fast. I mastered poker very fast. I was beating like the Asian kid, not to sound racist, I was beating like the Asian kids in math league, which was like unheard of. I dominated in StarCraft against some of the top players in the world. So any skill game that I've entered into, I very quickly like figured out like what's the optimal system, and then how can I build on that from there. And so it was that combination of that verbal abuse plus like a massive hyper-analytical ability that allowed me to take this to the extent. I'm into martial arts and stuff as well. I do Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a lot of the best martial artists that I follow, like Georges St. Pierre, he was bullied incessantly as a child, and then that created the drive to become like the best fighter in the world. So I kind of look at it that way, that if I hadn't had such a traumatic childhood, I wouldn't have given so much of a shit to like take this to the extreme that I did. But yeah, I mean, people are making fun of that or whatever. I'm kind of happy for the childhood experience I went through, because it allowed me to like surpass all that. I came from an extreme like introverted place with like massive social anxiety, panic attacks. I was like one of the shyest kids out of like 700 people in high school. And then I kind of went to the other extreme and figured this out. And now kind of like a current update, like I'm living in Brazil in a 2-story penthouse on a tropical island. There's like 42 beaches on the island. I live with 3 hot chicks. The main girl I'm dating that I bring on my channel, we have like 9 different girls on threesome rotation. And then I've got about 15 girls on my own rotation just for one-on-one, plus on-demand threesomes and foursomes with the girls in the house. We're kind of like living like the Hugh Hefner type lifestyle. And also, it's not just all about maximizing the lake count. Even though the number is so high, I've had like 7 long-term girlfriends, where monogamous, where for the monogamous in quotes, where it's slowed down the the close rate. And I very frequently prioritize the rotation girls over new sexual, like it's slowed way down, especially lately, because there's on-demand stuff in the house. Plus we have regulars over and all that stuff. So it's not like increasing the count, so to speak. But this was kind of like the end point. I always wanted to have like a live-in set of hot girls, and my girl does pick up with me, and she's even like getting numbers on her own when I'm not with her now. So it's kind of like this is the spot that I wanted to be in. And I've optimized my fitness and business stuff in the past couple of years since I quit drinking and stuff like that as well. So I'm happy with where I am, and I'm trying to bring a lot of truth to the industry, in the sense that 99% of the industry, I think, in the dating community, the red pill community, in pretty much any industry, fitness, it's a lot of charlatans, a lot of internet marketers, a lot of guys bullshitting and talking a big talk but not backing it up with real results. So that video I put out about all these coaches' wives and girlfriends, yeah, it was kind of a dick move, but don't be claiming to be a guru when you're settling down with average or below average girls, you know. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Like I said, I mean, it's kind of it's weird. Like some of the guys that obviously you've made videos about, I consider to be friends, but at the same time, I can't say, oh, well, don't call out people if you see things that, you know, like there's a need for that to keep things honest, or for people to evaluate for themselves, right? It's like, okay, well, look at this and see what you think about this. Again, this is kind of the thing that I'm doing with this channel too, is I'm saying, hey, look, okay, you can dislike whoever you want. I'm not getting involved in any kind of feuds between people. I'm just bringing people on my channel, and you can hear what they have to say, and you know, and from there you can make your own decisions. Because
when a guy's legit, like, you know, I would never talk shit on you. I would never talk shit on like Alex from Playing with Fire. Like when a guy's putting out real value, backing up stuff that he's doing, he's not caught faking results. Not caught. It's like if you don't want to get called out, don't do fucking bullshit stuff, right? Don't lie about your results. Don't fake infields. You know, don't have an average or below average girlfriend and claim to be the master. If you do that stuff or copy my products, like a couple of your friends did, I'm gonna call them out. Why wouldn't I? You know, so and I don't think most of the people in this industry have balls to whenever I'm on like a group setting, like with other dating coaches, and they'll all beat around the bush. Yeah, other coaches like to mislead you, and you know they're afraid to say the name. They're afraid to make a direct attack. Maybe my style is just to be very direct and kind of cutthroat about it, because there's no reason to beat around the bush when these guys are massively scamming and misleading people. But that's just me. So
yeah, and like I said, I mean that's something that I think we definitely have different styles on, but that's fine. Like I can, you know, it doesn't discredit that, and this is the important thing, I think, you know, that I think message that guys need to hear, which it doesn't discredit what you're doing and what your results are, right? And some people want to say like, oh, I don't like the guy, so then he must be full of shit. And it's like, no, you look at what is the person doing and what their results are, and then that's what you determine whether their information is valid or correct. Right? So,
yeah, and I'm pretty down to earth. Like the image I portray on a lot of the videos is like completely different. And it's not to say that I'm like putting on an alter ego or anything, but I'm like super chill and like laid back in person. When I get on like a coaching call with a guy that's interested in my courses, or when I meet a guy in person, they're like, oh, you're like the chillest dude ever. Like, I thought you were going to be some big asshole. I'm only like, you know, running my mouth and talking like an asshole when I'm like fucking all like worked up about a guy that's totally out of control and stuff like that. People are saying sociopath now. I mean, a lot of the best guys in the game, they have kind of like the dark triad traits, if we're being fair.
It's true.
You know, like narcissism, Machiavellianism, you know, a bunch of those things actually work in your favor to optimize the game. And I tell my clients, I try not to, you know, it's not about like lying to girls and stuff like that, but there's like certain things that can give you advantage in certain situations that I say, like, take this with a grain of salt. Like, should I tell all my rotation girls about each other? To be honest, most of them are not going to like that and are going to either drop you or start getting like very jealous and controlling, or they're going to make you use condoms, you know, other things like this. But I tell guys, you know, it's up to you. You can go the straight honest approach, and you just have to accept a big disadvantage that's going to come along with it. The comments are funny here, but yeah, we can jump into some valuable stuff. I had tuned into your live stream. I know you have questions for me, but one thing I was curious to ask you about your live stream with Alex and Playing with Fire. You said that you liked that video I have about how to not be a pussy, and there's kind of like that pussy litmus test where you can size a guy up in about half a second and determine if he's a pussy or not. And I played that game with hot girls in public, where it's like that guy, and we agree like 99% of the time. And a lot of times you haven't even heard them open their mouth, just the way they're carrying themselves and this and that. And I think you were trying to distill it on Alex's channel, kind of maybe there's a lot of things that go into it. Maybe like the determining factor, I think, that you pointed out to be is that a guy is like comfortable in his own skin and kind of like unapologetic in terms of like, he's not trying to be a people pleaser. He's not trying to be like the cool guy or the smart guy or the funny guy or anything like that, or the impressive guy. He's just like saying whatever he wants to say. And then, you know, he's putting himself out there that way. And I think women can appreciate that as well. But I kind of wanted to talk more about what, if you could go into your thoughts on that, because I tell guys that's like that's the common denominator. That's at the top of the tree. If you don't have that handled, a lot of like game techniques aren't going to help you until you kind of solve that problem.
Yeah, I think that's really key. That's in fact, a lot of what I try to do with Bulldog Mindset is to bring guys from that one end of being the pussy to being a man, because and a lot of people make fun of that. They're like, oh, you're going to teach guys how to be a man. I'm like, yeah, because you don't know how. Like it's not something that you just, and like you said, even with your background, I have a very similar background to your background. It's pretty interesting. I was very shy, very introverted. Almost went professional poker, did kind of for a while. Was
oh really? I didn't know that. That's
Diamond Tiers in StarCraft and
so
all that
you
kind
have
of stuff.
the big analytical component as well.
Yeah, I was a software developer, so
yeah, I was a computer programmer.
Yeah, but yeah, so but going from that, like I see the transition in myself, right? And it's so, I mean, even just looking at my older videos, right? Even just on this channel, like the early videos, I have this high pitched voice. I'm uncomfortable with myself. And you could assess me if you watch one of my older videos, you're like, that guy's a pussy, right? But you look at the later videos.
Same with me. I in the early days, and you kind of get more used to speaking in front of a camera too, right? Like I used to be terrified in front of the camera in the early days.
But yeah, it makes a huge difference, and I think you're right to point out that is such an element that matters so much more than even a lot of the game techniques that coaches learn or teach. Because if you don't have that, you're going to be incongruent. People are going to look at you and they're like, yeah, I know it's going to feel like creepy or weird. Whereas and that's a hard thing to get to the point where you're comfortable with yourself in your own skin. But everyone sees it. It's instant. In fact, it's so the most apparent. I was just at the airport coming back from Tampa, and I was sitting there. I forget what I was doing, but I just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this group of people coming up to like the counter. Actually, no, it wasn't at the airport. I was playing poker at Hard Rock actually in Tampa, and I saw this group of people coming up to the bar. And just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this one guy, and within a split second, I was like, that guy's gay. Right. No offense to the guy, but I was like, that guy has to be gay. Like, I just like, it wasn't what he was wearing. It was just one split second of the way that he was standing. And I knew he was gay. And then it was confirmed within, a couple of minutes later of watching his interaction. And it's like, that's how, if I can pick up on that out of the corner of my eye while I'm focused playing poker, then every girl in the room, as soon as you walk into a bar or nightclub, she knows already that you're not. Like, that's it.
Yep. Yeah. And I tell guys like, there's been a lot of discussion about this from other guys that Sonny, who I used to be friends with, Sonny Arvado, he wrote like a whole book about this, but the whole, like, as the generations go on, men are becoming less manly. And like, we don't have to, we didn't have any wars to fight in, like these generations in the recent years, we didn't have any wars to fight in. A lot of us aren't working with our hands. We're not having to do long hours of hard work. A lot of guys are just becoming like more and more and more feminine, and the women are becoming more masculine, especially in the Western cultures. So you have like that divide kind of, and it's almost going the other direction where the women are kind of like wearing the pants. And I'm not saying like there should be this or that formal role, but a lot of the traditional roles have kind of like flip-flopped. And a lot of these guys are like, it's kind of like they're hopeless until they, you're doing a good service. Like, I'm providing the game techniques, but at the end of the day, the girl's not going to respect, like I had a party the other day and there was this like really nice guy. That was a couple months ago. I think my chick's watching. It wasn't that recent. There was a dude that was just like super nice, and everyone's like, oh, he's such a nice guy. And he liked this one hot girl at the party. And they're all like, oh, we should set them up, and like they'd be perfect. He's so nice and this and that. But he's the kind of guy that everybody looks at as like a teddy bear or whatever. Not that they want to bang. And then I ended up banging that chick, like a few days later, and the guy found out. He was like devastated. But I wasn't even really paying much attention to her. But there's key things to do to say how you carry yourself. Like, she was like staring at me a lot of the party, and this and that. But I used to be that dude, and it's kind of like you're on the sidelines, and they can't figure out what they're doing wrong. And I remember I used to have the mindset that there was like a linear correlation to how much nice stuff you did for a girl and how much she would like you. So I was like, all right, I'm going to buy chocolates, I'm going to buy flowers, take her to dinner. Okay, if she's upset with me and I don't deserve it, that's fine, because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want any conflict, because then I could lose her. But all these things actually work against you. It's like counterintuitive and paradoxical. And the whole like Disney narrative and what your fucking mom tells you and all this shit growing up, it's all in reverse. What you see in the movies, you know. So the guy just wants to like go for that like kiss goodnight at the end of the, you know, it's a fucking disaster. So.
Yeah. I was gonna say about that, you know, I think also though a lot of guys in the red pill type of community get it too wrong the other way. So they're like, oh, never show a girl any kind of validation, never compliment her, never get her anything. And I'm sure like with the girl that you're with, you probably treat her like a princess. You probably treat her really well, take care of her, right? And she knows that
until she fucks up. Like that's the big key caveat.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. And it doesn't mean be trigger happy. That when I teach these videos on boundaries and stuff, guys start misapplying it and they get very trigger happy with it.
Yeah.
And they try to like boundary me in like this totally out of context situations. Like they're just so excited to boundary someone or exercise authority, but it's misapplied. It's the same thing when I tell them like, here's how you sexualize things. Then they're like, all right, I can't wait to use the sexualization line. They do it out of context and it's not congruent with the frame they're putting out and stuff like that. And so that's the important other thing. It's you have to actually internalize these things. It has to be part of who you are. It's not just special magic lines to sexualize or boundary people. So yeah, but in terms of what you said there, like with my girl, like my uncle, who was like one of the biggest like natural players I ever met, he said, treat them well until they fuck up, and then like make it clear that he's like, differentiate yourself from other guys. Tell them I'm not some punk that puts up with bullshit like that, and be willing to drop them even if they're a 10. He's like they use their pussy, so to speak, as like a talisman to hypnotize you.
Right.
And he's like, if you're immune to that, you stand out. And he's like, he told me all these like glory stories of like, you know, shutting down like these perfect looking girls, and they come back. He's like I'll just tell one of the stories in a quick abbreviated version. You can get to some of the questions, but he said there was this chick who was like the hottest girl that he had seen like in his town. He claims it was like to date still the hottest girl. I don't know if that's glorification or whatever, but he said the chick he ended up dating her. He was like in a metal band. He had like long hair. He was like practicing kung fu, and he would like get in fights in high school. He was like the cool dude. He would bring like a stereo hooked up to a car battery back in the 80s and shit to the beach, and the girls would come over and they'd make drinks and all this shit. But he starts dating this girl, and she pulled some kind of bullshit. And he always said, like, if it feels like bullshit or there's something shady, like, don't put up with it. Doesn't matter what shape or size, and don't engage them in an argument about it either, because you're always going to lose.
Exactly.
So he kind of like, you know, just kind of like was avoiding her, did his own thing. And there's no cell phones yet this time. She comes to his fucking house wearing this like tiny outfit. He's like washing his motorcycle, and she's like coming up the driveway, and she's like, why are you returning my calls and this and that? He's like, oh, I've been busy. And she's like, well, I don't like this and that. And he's like, listen, he's like, I enjoyed hanging out with you, but you know, I'm not some punk that puts up with this kind of shit. He's like, I don't like what you did, and I don't want to fucking deal with that. And she's like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, fuck you then. He's like, all right, well, he's like, that's fine. And he just kind of ignored it. She walks off, and he said she's walking down the street, and he sees like her fucking ass falling out of her skirt or whatever, and he's like, oh fuck, and he like almost had a moment of weakness. Like every bone in his body was like, just fucking bring the girl back, like just bang her. But he just let her go, and she gets like down the road, and she stops, and she comes back, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'll never do this shit again. He's like, I fucking banged the shit around the motorcycle. I'm like, oh, what happened after all that? He's like, oh, I banged her for like 2 more months, got bored of her, and broke up with her. He's like, you know, but that's the kind of like real legendary player shit. Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, like, you know, do this to be like some cool guy or whatever. Like, he was genuinely willing to. He told me like, even if he was at a chick's house and she fucked up, like he'd refuse to bang her and shit like that. Even if he was horny, he would like go and jerk off in the bathroom, you know, shit like that. But just having like that strong mindset of like not letting chicks fucking walk all over you, and they appreciate that. And almost no dude is willing to, you know, draw that line in the sand with them. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like to look at it as the difference between being like, be kind but don't be nice, right? Like nice is when you're wanting something from someone else, like you're seeking the validation or whatever it is, like you're doing something in order to get something, even if it's just approval. It might not be sex, it might just be approval. But being kind, being a kind person is like, hey, I just do this. I just treat people well you know. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't treat me well, then I'm not gonna deal with it. And I like that. I mean, you know, what that story you just talked about is perfect frame control, right? It's like, all right, my frame is like, hey, I don't accept this kind of behavior, and you can leave, as opposed to getting into, so many guys get into arguments. They get into arguments with girls. They're like trying to convince them, and it's like, nah, you know, I say my piece, and then if you have a problem with that, I don't care. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I got other shit I need to do. I'm not gonna engage you.
But there's a clear difference between like what we're talking about here and then what a lot of the red pill guys perverted into, where they go the other extreme. I was just talking to a prospective client this morning, and he said he went way down the red pill rabbit hole, and he said at first it was kind of helpful to get some of the mindsets right, but then he started resenting women, and like everything is all about like, don't let them get validation, don't let them turn you, you know, don't let them punk you, and it just becomes like the same problem that you had originally, but now you're on the other extreme.
100%.
And he said like none of these coaches are giving strategies how to get the girls. It's just all like mindset about, you know, like how to be the most alpha. And at the end of the day, like most of those guys aren't getting laid. So yeah, that's a big problem.
Well, and I think, you know, the biggest thing, again, like I said, I've got a lot of friends in the red pill community. So, but I talk about ideas, you know, and I think a lot of the ideas that are wrong there is, and I've pointed this out multiple times, is that what happened to the seducers, right? Like guys who are truly, you know, I don't even really like the term alpha male, but they should be seducers. Where's the Don Juans and, you know, the Lord Byron, you know, the type of guys that are actually real womanizers, not hate. Like, it's so hard, I think, for a guy to be good at picking up girls when he hates them. You know, it's like what you feel inside is going to be perceived by other people.
There's no reason to do any of that. And a lot of it is just like coping and dealing with cognitive dissonance, where I've seen a lot of these guys that can't get hot girls just lump them onto a category of like all being bitches or all being too high maintenance. And that was like the common defense when I put out all those dating coaches, girlfriends, and wives. Everyone said, well, no one actually wants to settle down with a hot girl because hot girls aren't worth the time. You can't build anything with a hot girl. They're too busy maintaining their appearance, which is just all BS. You know, once you've dated a bunch of hot girls, they're just like every other girl, except, you know, that most people don't have access to them because they're not, you know, they don't have the right amount of value and shit they can bring to the table, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, there's no need to say to be like resentful against hot girls and like try to like even the score and all this shit.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just the wrong way to live. And it's still, to a large degree, seeking that external validation. Now, what do you say to guys, right? Because I think a lot of guys that are watching this are like, wow, 1,300 lay count, you know, because I put it in the title, and they're like, well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to, like, I don't need to bang all these girls. I just want a girlfriend. I just want to get one girlfriend, because I get this all the time from guys. And I try to correct their mindset to a degree. What's your, you know, because I know that they can't get one girlfriend unless they have the capability to get multiple girls.
That's the paradox. So I've been coaching this stuff about 10 years now. I've coached thousands of guys around the world, and I didn't set out to just like bang lots of girls. That's like the result of having a good skill in the game. Like I said, I normally prioritize rotation. I normally run big rotations, but when you're good at this, just becomes systematic. But I get a lot of clients that come to me and they say like, oh, I just want a full package girlfriend, right? I just want a 9 or 9.5 girlfriend that checks a lot of boxes. Okay. Have you ever banged an 8 before? No. Have you ever banged a 7 before? Not really. Okay. Have you ever banged a 6 before? Not really. You know, so you can't go from getting average girls or having very minimal results to getting a full package stunner girl. Like, there's an evolution process that happens. So what I normally see is there's like a leveling up in the guy's confidence, in the guy's charisma. And usually when he, you know, and it's not like the girl's only value is her looks, but that's like usually the metric I see for as they're kind of upgrading in their quality, they start to fuck it up as they level up. Like, because you can't be icy cool. I always say this, you can't be like icy cool the first time you're on dates with 8s, or the first time you're on dates with 9s or 8.5s. You're scared. I remember the first time I was around like a 9 or a 10, like on an actual date or a potential sexual situation, I was like terrified. And you just totally go off script naturally because of what you normally know that works, because you're like, oh, I have to play this one different because she's really hot. So like now I care more what I say, I care more what she's thinking, I care more about how I'm doing. And so now, and plus like, you're just like terrified that you're gonna have to go back to the quality from before if you fuck this up, because it's like your first chance at it, or you have limited options of girls of that caliber. So until you like acclimate, so to speak, which I help them shortcut that process as much as possible, but it's a natural process you have to go through. So normally for a guy to get like a full package girlfriend, he has to go through this leveling up process. And it's normally like 50 to 100 girls, if I had to put a number on it. It's once they're kind of in that range, they've been through enough social situations, they've been through enough like personalities, they can properly calibrate. Because when you're with the really hot ones, and you know, the best analogy is it's like you're walking a tightrope sometimes, where just like one wrong move, like the girl I'm with in Brazil right now, she said that she normally only sees guys for a second date like 5% of the time. And she's a pretty hot girl, and she's an engineer, she's like full package girl. And she also waits like 5 dates normally to sleep with a guy, which is definitely, she thought that was normal, but it's definitely not normal, as you and I know.
Right.
A lot of girls will close on the first or second date unless you're in Ukraine. But you know, so guys, you know, it's very easy for guys to make a mistake where like they say something dumb, they do something dumb. Like she said, it was down to between me and one other dude that was a super cool dude, but he was like rude to the waiter when they were on their date or whatever, and that like shut him down. So and he had like first priority because she went out with him first, you know. So you know, just like these little mistakes like that. But if you don't have any dating experience and you're not used to being around hot girls, you're just going to be intimidated naturally, and you're going to be, you know, just inexperienced. So to all you guys out there that are like, oh, I don't want to bang tons of girls, that's fine, but you kind of have to go through this process. I don't know any guys that at a beginner level just start smashing out stunners, right? Or that just start getting all the best quality girls. You have to go through that process, you know, for better or worse. And so that's what I see. Like most of my testimonials, oh, I went, and a lot of them get that 50 to 100 girls in their first year. And then they run into like a girl that checks most of the boxes, and they're able to keep her around. And then, you know, but then what else is interesting is like from a philosophical aspect is like, now they have this hot girl, but they're good with hot girls, and they end up like cheating, or they end up like not happy being locked down because they have this skill now where they can get other hot girls. I mean, me and my other advanced friends, we joke around that like girls want like that alpha, like player bad boy, but they can't handle what that entails. Where right, like exactly, yeah. other hot girls want us, or like we have other options. It's hard to just be like fully committed, and that doesn't mean we don't love the girl, or we don't want to be a good guy. It's just that you've kind of like created a monster now, where it's like it's hard to just like flip the switch off, so to speak. You know?
Yeah. No, there's some really good insights in there, especially I think just even in, you know, the guys that want to get into their relationship and they don't have the experience because they can't handle, like they don't have the ability, like just like that story you're talking about. Was it, I think your uncle, you said, where he was able to just walk away. And so if you can't walk away, then you're not going to have any kind of, you get walked on. And so like you can only walk away if you have, you know, there's more out there. And so, you know, I think that's so critical, as a lot of guys don't understand that.
In the earlier days, I used to let hot girls get away with a lot more. I don't know. Yeah. Probably the same for you. I don't know. But like when you first started getting that taste of the hot girls, it was hard to, you know, like crack down or like cut them off when they fucked up. I used to permit a lot more stuff earlier back in the days. But at this point, you know, we had a foursome situation where one of the girls was like being rude to one of the other ones. We just said like, sorry, like you got to leave. She's like, oh, nobody's ever like, you know, told me like I'm not welcome. Like, do you see? Like, she was like really nice body, all this shit. We're like, you know, that's fine. When you have a bunch of other ones like that, you don't need, you know. Or I had a situation like a couple weeks ago. There was like a full package 10 that was acting like just very huge shit attitude. And I said, you know what? We had a date plan. I was like, I don't even fucking want to meet you. Your attitude's trash. And she's like, oh, well, you know, no one's ever said that. And I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to fucking tell you how it is, but your attitude's really shitty. And you don't need that kind of shit. Like if you have a bunch of hot girls already, you don't need to deal with all the baggage and bullshit a girl that has a shitty attitude is going to bring into your life, you know? So, but back in the day, I would have dealt with that just because you don't know when it's going to come around again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to have the options in order to exercise. So choice without options is not a choice at all.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got the lowest. He says, John Anthony, what do you think of Corey? Wait, trying to make us talk shit on the channel. All right. Well,
this guy, I have no problem talking shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, how off the rails we want this to get.
I mean,
but
you can
that dude,
give your opinion on it.
That dude, just watch any of his videos for 5 seconds, and you can tell he's not banging out chicks. So that's all. I like to make the joke. He has a book called 3% Man, and to me, that's very fitting because he seems to be like 3% of a man, in my opinion, just the way he carries himself. So that's all I'll say about him. I'm gonna go into more. Guys don't like the ad hominem attacks, but a lot of it's relevant though. Like we talked about with being a pussy. Like I don't want to make you talk shit, but what is your honest opinion of that guy? Are you familiar with his content or
of Corey?
Yeah.
My honest opinion of him, again, not to talk shit, is that I thought his book was good. I thought it was solid principles, but when I see the guy, I can't imagine that he's actually doing the things that he says he's doing. Just his persona doesn't seem congruent. We talked about the pussy test. Again, I'm sure he's a decent guy, and he's obviously not teaching complete dog shit type of advice, but at the same time, it just doesn't seem congruent with me. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's my point too. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We got super chat from Coach Whitepill. He says, John, how much of your game do you attribute to your height? Do you think you have 1,300 lay count if you're 5'6"? That's a really good question.
So I'm I'm not one of those coaches that say looks don't matter, height isn't a factor, any of these things. Like all that stuff obviously can be advantage. That being said, I have a lot of friends that are 5'8", 5'9" range that are in the 300 to 500 lay count range. So it's still possible to do well. You're not going to have access to as many women. Like all the girls that won't date you when you're like short of them in heels. But there's still plenty of other girls. Like that's the thing is like, we're not in tribes anymore. We're not, unless you're in like a tiny city, it doesn't fucking matter. Like you can still find enough girls that are going to like you. Like my old business partner, my original business partner that I started the company with back in like 2012, 2013, he was saying like on the live programs, if any girl didn't like you for whatever reason, because you were too short, too ethnic, or whatever the fucking reason was, he would say there's a hotter, cooler girl right on the corner that's going to suck my dick tonight. Right. So, yeah. And that's true. Unless you're in like a ghost town or something like that, like where there's hardly any people. But I look at this all mathematically. So I look at everything very quantitatively. Yeah. You can relate to that coming from the software background. But if you look at all the population of girls in your city and you cut out the girls that, that wouldn't date you because of your height or whatever, they're still left with plenty of options. Right.
Exactly.
So a lot of these are just very big copes and excuses. So, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. Guys are trying to blame their height, their city. There's plenty of guys that blame their city in a city that's over like 1 million people, like San Francisco. I always hear, "Oh, I'm in San Francisco, so I can't get girls because it's bad for game." Or they blame their logistics.
Exactly.
Oh, I live 20, 30 minutes away from the club, so I can't. Put me 30, 35 minutes away from the club and put like 100 other guys that are intermediate living on top of the club or next to the club, and I'm gonna run circles around them. It doesn't fucking matter. Right? Unless you're like over 40 minutes away from the club, that's like an extreme logistics problem. But in Vegas, I live 30, 35 minutes away from the club. I was pulling like almost every night. You just have to banter a little more in the cab. So guys love to just they want to blame some aspect of their personality or of their physical appearance that they can't control, or they want to blame their city or their logistics or whatever because it allows them to feel better about their lack of results. But it's very rare that I can't help a guy in an extreme way. Even like the wheelchair client, for those of you that follow my channel, there was a wheelchair virgin in London, and he pulled 2 girls during my program. We have it on camera. And I was actually very skeptical when I took him on as a client. I thought this was going to be a fucking disaster. But he was a cool dude, and the girls were actually very receptive. And when he would open them, they would usually think that he needed help, and they're not going to tell a dude in a wheelchair to fuck off.
Exactly.
Right. So, and he was funny too. He would say like, "Oh, my shit still works," and like all this stuff. And the girls would, and he pulled like a stripper on program. We had gone to a strip club one of the nights, and we all like went our separate ways. And he's texting. He was waiting for the Uber, and he pulled a fucking random stripper and got in the cab with her. And he's texting me from her bed. She had to like lift him from the chair into her bed. This is why I love coaching, because it's all these people bitching. This is a dude that's literally in a fucking wheelchair that has cerebral palsy, and you've got able-bodied dudes that are saying like, "Oh, it's my height." Tell that to this kid in a wheelchair, So I don't think that everyone's on an equal playing field. That's just stupid to think that. Yeah. But maximize your sexual market value, become the best version of yourself, become the highest value version of yourself, and then, you know, learn strategy and learn tactics. That's going to carry you a lot of the rest of the way.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree 100%. There, one phrase I like to use a lot, both in game and in business, is if there's one, there's more than one. Right. And that, again, from a statistical viewpoint, I'm like, a lot of times I'll ask guys, has a girl ever kissed you? You know, yeah, one girl did. Okay, well, there's 1,000 more. Like, we just have to go and find them, and then increase your ability to be able to, you know, to increase the odds there, because it's all just a matter of odds. You think about it that way. It's like, you know, even poker, right? Like, I mean, again, you can compare it back to EV, right? It's like,
value,
you could win the pot with shitty cards and have no skill. Like, eventually you're going to get dealt the full house. I mean, it's going to happen. You know, but the better you are, then the more that you're going to maximize what you've got. And if you get shit hands all the time, you can still maximize that to a large degree. So
there's an important point to piggyback on there too, is that, like, once they have a result, I tell them to, like, keep that in mind. Like once you banged a 7, once you bang an 8, oh, I can get a girl like this. It's not as scary. It's not as big of a deal anymore. But a lot of the guys have that problem, like, you know, starting off, because they don't have any of that result to look at. And I tell them, like, you still have to carry yourself like you're the man, like you're at 100 out of 100 value, et cetera. Because if you don't believe in your own product, so to speak, your own value, the girl will never believe it. And I like telling the story of, I was running a program where it was in Vegas. I was at like 250 count or something like that. It wasn't that high yet, but I had a client that was a virgin, and he said they respond well to you because you've slept with hundreds of girls, and they respond poorly to me because I've been with 0. And I was like, dude, we don't have a Post-it note on our head with our lay count or our results. If you come in like very confident in alpha, they're going to respond positively to you. If I come in very weak and unsure of myself, they're going to respond negatively to me. And that kind of set off a light bulb. He got a make out and a pull. And me and my old business partner, we were joking, like, he was like the coolest virgin in the club. But this is like this little mental shift that they don't know how many girls you've been with, and they don't know, like, what you bring to the table. And one other really quick analogy is, if you went into a car dealership and there was like a rusted car with, like, you know, the parts broken and windows busted out, and the salesman was like, hey, do you want to buy this? You're gonna be like, fuck no, right? But if he's like, hey, do you want this, like, shiny new Lamborghini, you know, obviously price aside, if you're presenting this, like, nice, high value, you know, desirable thing, and you believe in your own product, that doesn't mean you'll get every girl, but now you are actually, like, contending. Whereas a lot of guys, I see, like, one of the biggest mistakes is they're against themselves, and they're stopping themselves, and they're handicapping themselves, and they go in, oh, no girls like me, my hairline, my age, my height, my ethnicity, etc. I didn't get any girls last month or last year. It's going to be more of the same. And all this self-defeating talk and lack of belief in themselves is perpetuating the problem and reinforcing those. And RSD, for instance, just tells them, just keep taking massive action. That's just kind of like massive action in the wrong way and with the wrong mindset is going to keep defeating you more and more, and you're going to need more help, and they're delivering more solutions. So, you know, I try to get guys out of that mental headspace. We deal with that right away in the beginning. It sounds like that's a lot of the work you do. And then from there, I just plug them into optimized strategy, and it's like the scale tips, and then it's a runaway phenomenon. And then they're on the other side where they don't have enough time to see all the girls.
So, yeah, definitely. You know, I think I'd say that because some of the black pill guys, right, they're right in the sense that one of the things that I think you kind of hit on was that they'll say, oh yeah, if you take a guy that has no confidence and you make him face more rejection, he's not going to get stronger. He's going to reinforce his beliefs that he's a loser and that girls reject him. But I don't know how you do it, but when I coach guys, I tell them, I'm like, look, the goal is not for you to get the number or get laid right now. The goal is for you to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and to stay there. And because then you win just by doing that. Later on, we can work on other stuff, but I want you to start approaching and seeing that as a win every time, because you are in control of that. You're not in control whether you get the number, you get rejected or not. That's outside your control. You can influence that, but what you can control is every time you can walk up when you're afraid and do something that scares you and put yourself in that uncomfortable situation and count that as a win, because you just did what 99% of guys won't do. And once you start to get that reinforcement, then you're like, you know, then you can build on that, because then it's true confidence, and that true confidence can get you to because no matter how good you are, you know, I mean, even you, I saw in your videos, you're like, you have 13,000 phone numbers, you know, in your phone. But so it's like a 10%, and that's like phenomenal, you know, to like 10%. So I think a lot of guys, they have this wrong mindset. They're like, oh, if I learn game and stuff, then, you know, it's going to be like 50%.
Yeah, or a lot of coaches say you can get any girl once your game's tight enough. It's obviously not true.
Yeah, it's not true. So
yeah. To that point real quick. Yeah, like I tell guys to be realistic, so a 10% close rate. But yeah, I tell them the measure of success is implementing correct strategy. Because again, same as in poker, you make the right move. So like, let's say like a real quick poker analogy. For those of you who don't know poker, let's say you have like 90% odds on a hand, and you get all your chips in for that, and the guy catches his 10% odds. A lot of people will incorrectly think, oh, I wish I could go back in time and play that different. But you want to make that move every time. Right. It doesn't matter that he caught his 10% odds, because you do that 10 times, you win 9 times. So when you consistently make the highest probability moves, that's going to bring you the most success in the long run. So you shouldn't. So as long as they're making the best probability moves, that's the measure that I look at of are they doing well. So I tell them, like, once you get your skill set honed in and you can move girls from level to level, and it's a funnel. You have your online game, night game, day game, funnels down to phone numbers. Then it's your text messaging, funnels down into dates. Then your date percentage, how many you bring home, funnels into how many you bring home to the house, how many you close, your closing percentage, and then how many you retain. I try to get guys to like the 80 and 90% mark. So they're bringing home 8 or 9 girls out of 10 from dates, closing 8 or 9 out of 10. They bring home, retaining 8 or 9 out of 10. And then in terms of getting phone numbers on dates, you can never get that to 8 or 9 out of 10. There's too much shit out of your control and this and that. But that's what they're striving for. And then it's just a matter of pumping volume into the top and how much free time you can allocate. And that's going to fuel your results. But the pass-through level in the funnel and clearing the bottlenecks in the funnel is the important skill to develop.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that's the key is looking at the numbers, right? It's the same thing, just like a sales process, just like marketing, right? Yep. You know, when I coach guys on business, I say, hey, look, well, you know, let's see, you know, because when you try to get someone to buy your product, right, you've got so many people that come to your website and so many people that sign up their email address, and then some percentage of that, a couple percent, that when you send an offer, that they buy it and they get into that funnel. And so it's like, well, if you want to make $2,000 a month, well, we got to figure out your product's $200. Okay. You need to sell 10 per month. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, if you get a 2% conversion rate on your email list, then, you know, we can multiply that out, and that's got to be 2,000 people on your email list per month. And then if you get a 2% conversion rate on your website, then shit, now you got to get, you know, over you know, anyway, so somewhere around 10,000 people a month visiting your website. And yep, it's the same exact thing. You can break it right down to the science.
Yeah. So yeah, just real quick on that. So I tell guys, like, if they're a lot of guys want to get like 1 to 2 closes a week, right? So which comes out to 50 to 100 a year. And so I tell them, like, go for between like 15 and 20 numbers a week. Let's say you get 16 phone numbers consistently a week. You set 25% of them for dates. Now you've got 4 dates a week. Close at least half. Now you're doing 2 a week, and then that comes out to 104 girls a year. So, but you have to keep those things steady. If you let the funnel dry up and stop putting leads in, it's not magic, right? You can have the best game in the world, and if you only get a couple phone numbers that week, you can't, you know, as it sifts down, maybe you get 0 dates, you know, maybe because girls are going to flake, et cetera, et cetera. So it's volume is essential to get consistent results, but then the skill, so like the volume is like the size of the funnel at the top, and then the skill is how wide you keep it going down. And most guys have compounding bottlenecks, so it's like boom, 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 and it's they're up against so much, it's like next to impossible to get any kind of consistent results, because they're failing at so many parts, right? If they get limited phone numbers at the top, they text wrong, right, they maybe get 0 dates or 1 date, they run their date wrong, back to square one. And then they think just doing that like 1,000 times is going to fix the problem, rather than addressing all the holes and bottlenecks in the funnel.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same way I would attack, you know, a business problem. It's just looking at each point in the funnel, like how can we increase the conversion rate from one step to the next step, and then
that model works for everything in life to pass through for results.
Let's see. We got a couple of questions here, and then sure. I got to jump off. I got to go to a dentist appointment actually, but let's see. So number 2 pencil one says, John Anthony, I noticed you didn't use attraction, comfort, seduction phrase at Mystery did. Why is that?
So I'm a huge Mystery fan. He's probably the guy I respect, definitely the guy I respect the most in the game. I think a bunch of his principles, however, are suboptimal and a little bit outdated, which is no bash on him. I think he made the best attempt at a system, and I carried a bunch of stuff forward, the best parts into my stuff, and I always give him credit when I mention those things on my channel. I think, let's see, so I do that. I just don't call them those things. So my structure, actually, I'm going to release a video today or tomorrow on my night game structure. So after the open, I try to isolate them within the first couple minutes away from the friends, usually to the bar or some other area of the venue. And then that's where I start amping up the physical escalation and the sexualization. And that's where I'm getting into like the comfort part where you're building rapport, but a lot of it's very heavy on the sexualization and framing things for the hookup later. And then I disagree that you need like a 7-hour rule, that you need 7 hours of comfort, right? He says 4 to 10 with an average of 7. It's not a quantitative amount of hours for comfort. It's a qualitative amount of comfort in order to prevent the buyer's remorse, which is her regretting sleeping with you prematurely and then, possibly ghosting or whatever later because she feels like slut shamed. So I have like key things I do to import the requisite amount of qualitative comfort before the hookup and also right after the hookup, so you can put them on rotation, and so they're not going to feel cheap about a one-night stand. It's sort of like kind of anti-one-night stand framing. I say like, oh, I feel a good connection with you. I feel like we're going to hang out a bunch more. So it still is that structure, but I assume attraction.
Right.
I'm not doing like traditional like qualification stuff. I took his compliance model, which comes from like operant conditioning with like B.F. Skinner, where you're basically putting them to a series of compliance tests, and then there's reward and punishment, where you continue on, kind of like Jordan Belfort's straight line persuasion system. You continue on in the straight line when you get compliance. If you get non-compliance or objections, you deal with those accordingly as it diverges off the straight line, then come back and go on the straight line again. So I assume attraction, it's the best mindset. The purpose of the interaction isn't to win the girl over. It's just to determine her logistics and objections and either take her home right then and there or plan a date for later to close it then. But you assume attraction, you build rapport through just like flirting and sexualizing. And then, it's all one kind of like greased slide. Like in sales or marketing or pickup, it's all about like just giving them like little baby step compliance things that's going to allow it to be the most persuasive to get like the most yeses, so to speak, along the way. A lot of the holes and mistakes that guys have in their game is they're like doing these big spikes in compliance. So like last minute resistance, for instance, the LMR stuff, a lot of guys encounter that because they're not sexualizing, they're not making out, it's a very kind of fact exchange type platonic interaction. And they get back to the house and start trying to put on the moves. Yeah. And it's like this like drastic change. And then the girl's like, wait, what is this shit? I thought we were just like hanging out, or I thought I just came back here for this, like, friendly, like the guys are framing to go home wrong, where it's just gonna be like, oh, we're just gonna go. They're trying to like trick them, like, oh, I'm just gonna teach you this or show you this painting or whatever. And they get home and start putting on the moves, and the girl's like, what the fuck is this? So I do follow his structure to some degree, but it's more of just centered on compliance and moving things forward. And the length of the interaction is just dependent on how many objections you get along the way. So yeah, but I do respect him a lot and think that he did a lot of good for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, he had it figured out initially, and then like you said, I mean, it evolved. Like you figure out things that are necessary, things that aren't necessary, ways to shortcut the interaction. Let me see. Okay, so Dave Smith says, oh, this is a good one. Talk about STDs when spinning plates. Ex gave me herpes 1. It's not serious. 60% have it, but I don't know. It feels like a burden knowing I do.
Yes. So STDs are pretty severely overrated. I got a vasectomy in 2014, so I don't have to worry about the pregnancy risk. And truthfully, in all my time doing game, all I caught was chlamydia 3 times, nothing else. And most advanced guys I know caught chlamydia between like 2 and like 5, or I think one of my friends got like 7 times. But none of us caught anything else. That doesn't mean the other things don't exist. But I have a video on STDs on my channel, and they're massively blown out of proportion. If you look at the pure facts and statistics, everything's curable except for AIDS and herpes, right? And AIDS mostly exists, like HIV mostly exists in like the gay community, and also not to say that you can't get it as a heterosexual, but oh yeah, here we go.
This is like the best chart that I've found.
It's like astronomical odds. If it's like, mostly spread through raw unprotected anal sex. Yeah. So as a rule,
needles for
drug use. Yeah, so. And you can take, I don't take this, but there's like a preventative thing that you take daily that even if you're banging someone that has HIV, like on a regular basis, it's like almost impossible to catch. But so you can take something like that for prevention. But then obviously I never want to catch HIV, but I had a friend that did like a PhD in HIV back like 6-7 years ago. And he said that they still live a long, healthy life given the treatment stuff that they have, usually even longer than most regular people. And in herpes, lots of times people have it and don't ever show symptoms. I'm looking at these stats here.
Yeah,
But long story short,
one to be careful, but it's so rare. Syphilis is the
yeah,
but it's so rare.
Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm a big Friedrich Nietzsche fan. That's how Nietzsche died.
Yeah, that is yeah.
But yeah, so like, you know, I have clients that are afraid to have vaginal sex because they don't want to get a girl, you know, have a condom break and get a girl pregnant, or they won't have any sex because of the STD stuff. You know, with 1,319 girls, I've caught chlamydia 3 times. Neither of the 3 times were there symptoms. It was just caught with routine testing. It's gone in 1 week with a pill. It's like, what is it called? Zithromax or some shit. But it's gone. You literally take a pill and it's gone in a week. Like the biggest impact it has is like you have to tell your rotation, and then, you know, I would usually just say like, hey, you gave me chlamydia, and a bunch of them are only seeing you, so they know that you gave it to them. And I don't hook up with married chicks usually anymore, but I had a married chick one time that got the chlamydia for me, and she just like refused sex from her husband for a week and gave him a pill that she said was like a vitamin supplement or something like that. So he would be cured of it. But yeah, in general, they're like vastly overrated. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful. I think it's more of like a personal choice. I think most people that are sexually active should have vasectomies. It's like takes 15-20 minutes. You're awake, local anesthetic, micro incision, etc. And there's really no downsides. And you still produce sperm. You still have the same like semen load, so to speak. Your sperm's only 5% of your semen. So unless you're planning on having a kid anytime soon, I think a vasectomy is a pretty responsible and responsible or safe move. You know, especially if you're doing any kind of volume. But you know, you can just get. I have my best friend in college. He got a girl pregnant from a one-night stand where she said she was on the pill. Came inside, contacted 5 years later. She had the kid, 5 years back child support. It's like 25% of his income for 21 years. And he's never met the kid, never wants to, being raised by another person. So it's kind of a smart financial thing. And also you don't want to like fuck up a kid's life and that kind of shit if you're not ready to have a family. So
let's see, you got one more question here. One last question before how do I find wingmen?
I thought it said, what time is your dentist one? Oh. Wingmen, you know, the traditional methods of like joining the RSD inner circles and stuff is going to normally connect you with a bunch of weirdos. And that's not to say those people were weird to begin with, but RSD made them weirdos. So a lot of the guys that are in pickup and in the community are not the best wingmen. I highly advocate walking up to like an alpha looking dude at the club and just being normal and saying,
yep,
like, yo, what's up? Like, I'm new to the area, or I'm looking for people to go out with and hit on chicks. Just like be honest. I did that in Dallas when I first moved there. My friends hadn't moved there yet. And it was this big jack dude with tattoos. He turned out to be a manager at Hooters, hooked me up with his whole social circle. I was banging the Hooters chicks through him. And it wasn't weird at all. Like guys think it's weird to like walk up to a dude and just say, hey, I want to go out and hit on chicks together. And that dude had only been with like 50 chicks, which he thought was really high. He's like, oh, I've been with a lot of chicks. And he's like, you're not going to believe it. I was like, how many? He's like, 50. And you know, you can do that in a couple months if you got your skills dialed in. But you know, I think that's the best way. It's good to have wingmen that are just kind of just like cool, basically cool dudes that are like kind of normal and stuff like that. A lot of the pickup guys can tend to go like fancy, gamey, gimmicky, weird, which is largely the fault of RSD and kind of bring things down. But I do think I had a lot of wingmen like that over the years because I'd be often going out with clients. And I think that can make your game even stronger because not only do you have to convince the girl that you're safe and cool enough, but you have to convince that like this guy that's like giving her like serial killer eyes is okay to trust as well.
Yeah.
So I think it can actually sharpen your game up. It's kind of like, you know, it's like putting like extra weights on when you're doing like martial arts or something like that. But yeah, is there any like I know you got to go. Is there any like last minute closing thoughts in terms, or let me just shout out my my stuff real quick.
Yeah, let's see that.
Yeah, so my channel is John Anthony Lifestyle. It's largely focused on efficient, effective, optimized, practical, no BS pickup and seduction advice, largely outer game tactics officially. I think it's probably the best channel out there in terms of like the most practical advice for getting laid. And I also run an 8-week mentorship program where I work with you very intensively. That's at the platinumdatingsystem.com. You can sign up for a free 30-minute call with me where I go over how I can help you. But yeah, in terms of like mindset stuff, I think you have one of the top channels for that in terms of breaking guys out of that, you know, the pussy mode and just getting them kind of become more of a man. So that's definitely super important because a lot of these guys, you know, they want to be kind of theory junkies and learn all the theory that they can about how to get the girls. But at the end of the day, like a girl takes one look at them and they're like, you know, it doesn't matter how much theory they know at that point. Exactly. So it's kind of an essential, but don't take that to the extreme. It's okay to jump in and start learning the tactics. I get guys that come to me and they're like, well, I think I'm still a pussy, so I need to like work on that for a long time before I tried going on dates and stuff like that. You can do the same. You can do them both in parallel. And you're not going to just go from pussy to like super alpha overnight anyways. So,
well, one of the biggest things that'll get you out of being a pussy is going and practicing game, actually going out there and overcoming all those fears. Because that's like, once you start doing that, then a lot of things in life aren't as scary. So
yeah, and it's fascinating. I'm sure you see lots of times too, like the evolution with a client. It brings, when you get this the mindset stuff handled, and when you start getting more success with women, you start to command more respect from your friends. You start to make advances in your job, you know, your family, et cetera. All this, like the confidence and the boundary stuff and all this stuff has, you know, permeating effects throughout your entire life. And so it's like a nice, like cornerstone to have success in the rest of your life.
Awesome. All right, guys. Definitely check it out. I put a link down below too. I just dropped it in chat for John's channel. Like I said, he's the real deal. I mean, he's got real skill, you know, regardless, you know, I just want to say this as just a caveat for you guys, because I know you guys, a lot of you guys are, you know, I'm obviously friends with Myron and John and some of the guys in the Red Pill community. And you're like, well, John just roasted them, so how can you have him on your channel? It doesn't matter. I care about I don't get involved in the drama. I care about the facts, and John is going to teach you a really good game, and he's got results. So, you know, regardless of what your opinion is, you know, I would encourage you to be an objective person who looks at, you know, forget about the drama and stuff. You know, it's also a good marketing pet tactic that John's doing on YouTube. It does, you know, it works. But what's important is that I'm telling you, he's got solid game, and so go check out his channel. So
yeah, and for the record too, like I'm not just roasting people for the sake of roasting them.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to provide a lot of evidence behind the different claims to kind of open people's eyes, because there's really no accountability in this industry in terms of the quality of people's services or products. Right. People paint an image and then live a life completely different. Right. Or you have internet marketers that know nothing. I told my audience the other week that there was a multimillionaire in the space teaching dating advice that turned out to be gay, right? Which is nothing against gay people, but he doesn't know the first thing about helping guys get better with girls, right? So, yeah, I got to jump on a call as well. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the channel. I'm gonna bring you on mine as well. We can continue this discussion, get into more, you know, upgrading masculinity and stuff like that. But awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you more in the future, and I appreciate you looking past the other stuff. And none of that was meant to be personal. It's trying to call a spade in terms of certain situations.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks for coming on the channel. Good talk, and yeah, looking forward to being on your channel. All right, guys, go subscribe. Click the link down below, and see you later.
All right, take care.